You ready?
Welcome, DTL Poetic Vibez Podcast. I am your host of the day, Trish, and we got
I am divine, so divine. Divine Barbara.
Divine, so divine. I like it. I like it. So today's segment is for our very own team member. It is for MoeFlowz. Mo, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Glad to be on. My name is my real name is Maurice. Everybody call me Mo. That somehow turned into MoeFlowz. I'm originally from Philly. Spent half my life in Philly, other half in Virginia. I'm down in Virginia now, so glad to be on the show.
Hey. Welcome, man. All right. It made me think of Joe Biden because I was like, he's not here right now.
Yes. Shout out to Joe
Biden. So definitely the way that I have, we're DTL Poetic Vibez. I want people to be comfortable. This is strictly a segment or a podcast for poets and poetry. The whole entire idea of it is to make sure that we're really diving deep into the artists themselves versus everybody just seeing your work and just your performance, because I feel like poets have a deeper personality when it comes to whatever they're writing and being vulnerable, open to the world, but people don't really know who you guys are. So we designed this podcast to dedicate it strictly for those individuals, to be able to be seen and heard and why they do what they do. So, you ready to dive in?
Yeah, I'm ready. Ready for the questions.
Describe poetry as it relates to what it means to you.
Poetry, as what it means to me. I think, there's all different kinds of poetry, right? And I think a lot of times it's mainstream wise, we think mainly about like slam poetry or performance poetry, but it's much deeper than that. I think poetry really is just a form of expression, based on how one feels, how they see the world, and taking that expression and just express and giving it to the world in a creative way, right? And through the use of words, obviously. But poetry, I don't think it has, one concrete definition of like it has to be a certain amount of lines, a certain amount of words, or a certain about, we like to a lot of people, like to create all these different categories for poetry, but it's just you expressing your feelings or your thoughts on life, using words in a creative way. That's pretty much it in a nutshell to me.
Yes.
I like how you describe it, because a lot of people would literally try to give like a book definition of what poetry is. Nah, I like that you made it like very personal. And that's kind of why I rephrased the question that way, because you tell people to describe poetry, they're like looking for an actual definition. It's like the same thing as telling people define love. It's like, whoa, wait.
Yeah, exactly, right. I love seeing people to try to define that one.
Where did your original inspirations to write poetry come from, and how has it helped you in your life?
Oh man, so I got a little story for that one. I don't know where it originated at, and here's why I say that. I thought that, like, if you'd have asked me, maybe five years ago or so, I would say, oh, it just originated because when I was in Afghanistan, I was in the army, and just having a lot of free time. And what I used to do was I used to write like just a little motivational quotes and stuff for myself. And then it's, just to keep myself motivated. And then it kind of turned into, I would start sharing with other people, my battle buddies and stuff. And then it kind of turned into, I started having fun, like just, putting some poetry together. I wasn't following any type of schematic or anything. I was just writing what I thought and performing the way I thought it should be performed. And then after that, you had the when I got back, you had, what was that show? Def Poetry Jam.
I remember.
Yeah, so once I started watching that, and I made the connection to what I was doing to that, and then I kind of started writing. And I might have performed a couple times here and there, but not a lot. And then, like I said, within the last 2 or 3 years, I really started, performing. And then I really started like really researching and finding out more about poetry, right? And going beyond, just the normal spoken word / slam type of poetry,
Right.
like
Right.
really just finding out about different styles of poetry. Now, I was looking at this, I was cleaning my mom's house out one time, and I found my yearbook from when I was in the 8th grade. And I was looking through the yearbook, and in there it said, like I was voted like most creative and best writer and all this kind of stuff. And I don't even remember, like I didn't even remember that I used to write that long ago. But when I saw that, I started thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah. And I started thinking like, dang, I used to write like when I was little. When I was in middle school, high school, I remember middle school and elementary school, I remember now. And I don't know where that stemmed from. I do know I used to write a lot about like love. I used to write about love, even at that young age. That's what I used to write about all the time. And I think it had a lot to do with just my childhood experiences with my parents and stuff like that. I didn't know that at the time, but now reflecting on it, and seeing where that stems from. So I can't tell you exactly where it started from, but it definitely started when I was little, and I would attribute it to my relationships with my parents and writing about love.
That is,
Yeah.
I
Yo,
like
that's
also that the fact that it transitioned and it came back
Yeah.
to you being in the service
Hmm.
where your heart was,
Yeah.
and you was able to bring that back out. And
Yeah.
first and foremost, thank you for your service.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
service. I always forget that he was in the service until like he'll mention it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, like duh.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's crazy how you mentioned like finding your 8th grade like yearbook, and it's funny
Hmm.
because I've been writing since I was in the 8th grade. So
Mm.
that's hilarious. I was like 8th grade,
Yeah.
which for me is what, it's over 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it's crazy, things happen in your life. Like I said, you know, I didn't even realize that until
hmm
I was cleaning my mom's house out a few years back, and I saw that, and I saw it,
hmm
in that book. I was like, dang. So it's really interesting to me the way it came full circle. So for me, that kind of lets me know like this is what I was meant to be doing, right? Because I've literally been doing it all my
Yeah,
life, even when I wasn't conscious to it.
right.
So yeah,
I think it's always a wow moment when you reflect and you learn something about your inner child.
yeah,
I think that
yeah.
that is always like,
Yep, yep, absolutely. Those things you kind of take for granted, or not necessarily take for granted. You just
mm,
don't think about them too much until you get
hmm
older and you have more awareness of yourself and you reflect. And you're like, oh wow, yeah,
So most poets prefer to be called poets instead of artists.
hmm.
Is a poet considered an artist, and why?
Is a poet considered an artist? Yeah, a poet is definitely considered an artist. I think again, I kind of guess it goes back to my definition. Like, art is anytime you take an inner uh, emotion, an inner feeling, an inner experience from within, and you could
hmm
translate that in a way that people can grasp onto it. They could feel it, whether it be through a picture, whether it be through
hmm
a painting, whether it be
Right.
through words, whatever that
hmm
is, that's art, right?
hmm
So I would definitely say a poet is an artist. I don't in regards to being called a poet as opposed to artist. Really, I guess it's just preference, right? Um, it really depends on how the person feels about it. I don't have an
hmm
opinion about whether I'm called a poet or artist, or it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, I create bodies of work that inspire people. Whatever you
hmm
want to call that, however you want to categorize that's for you to do. I'm not into that because
Right.
I don't categorize myself like that because I don't want to put myself in a box, right? That's why I don't like to
mm
call myself a slam poet or just a spoken word. Sometimes you have to say those things so people understand where you coming from or understand who you are. But for
Right.
me personally, um, it's all art. It's all art, and it's just whether it's
Yeah.
verbal, whether it's in a picture or whatever the case may be.
And I noticed that like going into going into this community that a lot of people felt some type of way if they were called an artist because they wanted to be categorized. And to me, just coming from a artistic perspective, it's just like, I get it, but then I don't get it, because it's like, all right, if I'm a director, or I'm an actor per se, and they're
You back? You glitched for a second, but you here.
Your camera.
It's funny because you
we see you from the top camera.
because I watched it pop up, and I was like, it popped up on the studio. It's just like new recording, new track, or whatever. So I guess I didn't want to use my other camera. That's fine. Whatever. Just view aside. But so a lot of times, like if I say, as an actor, you're a artist, and people would be like, well, no, I'm an actor. They feel, I don't know if it's like not an offensive way, but more so like put some respect on my type of art.
Yeah.
Per se.
Well,
so I just found it like
really
weird. Really
well,
weird why
I can
they
see
like
that, right? Because a lot of times people don't like to just be, I guess I assume, again, to me it doesn't matter, but I assume that some people don't like to be called an artist because sometimes when you're referred to as an artist, is not seen as professional, right? It's seen as something you just doing, like creative. Is kind of like, oh, you an artist. Oh, okay, like cool. You paint. That's nice. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess in that respect, I can see how some people feel that way about it. But I've never, like, for instance, perfect analogy, right? At my job, I'm a professor, right? And I have a PhD, but I don't go around be like, hey, you need to call me doctor, like Dr. Brown or all that. Like, that's just not my thing. And it's people that I work with that I really get heartburn about that. Like, yo, I'm a doctor. You need to call me doctor, this, that, and the third. And I guess I kind of get it. But for me, it's kind of like, me, who I am as a person, is going to speak for itself. So
Right.
I don't need to, like, if I'm a poet for real, like if I know what I am, you going to know it. I don't need to, like, necessarily have that title. But I can understand why people.
Yeah, it definitely boils down to just a preference thing at the end of the day. I do agree with that.
Exactly.
I just thought it was weird when I entered it. And I was like, you're an artist. Like, why does it?
Yeah. Why does it matter, right? Yeah.
Right.
I don't understand. Even if as a painter they look down at the word artist, like I'm a painter. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it always looked down upon? Because people don't think it's a real career path, like you said.
That's exactly why. Because of the monetary, the monetary value attached to it, right? Like, our parents, we come from a generation, especially in the Black community, where it was all about, you have to do something that's going to be financially beneficial to your family, and art wasn't one of those things. I mean, unless you were like really, really good, but just coming out of you saying, "Oh, I want to be an artist," was like, that's not financially beneficial to the family. So I think that's where that
I
stigma
definitely
comes from.
understand.
Yeah. Nah, that's a good way to actually describe it, though, because a lot of people, like you said, it's a preference thing, and I feel like a little bit of entitlement goes in there too.
Sometimes,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah, and
That's
I'm
a
big
artist.
Heavy word. That's
and
a
I'm
heavy
serious
word in the
about
community.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that on another segment, and the word entitlement. I will say this for the record, a lot of people don't know, but I found out about Mo through TikTok. One of his random poems like popped up on TikTok, and I kid you not, I sat there and replayed it over and over to quote it word for word just to make it a post on my Facebook and put like MoeFlowz, like just credit it. And it's crazy that you then ended up on DTL.
That's
like
awesome.
how it just in alignment. It was just insane.
No, yeah.
I was like, I was a fan first.
It was.
So
that was wow. I remember that.
Tell me, how did you feel what were your first thoughts when you first performed at DTL's platform?
Oh man. So when I first performed at DTL, that was like that's when I really started like taking poetry seriously. Or like yeah, when I really started taking it seriously, like, okay, this is what I want to do. Right. And so I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that I had just went to what's the joint what's the main the thing they had where you get in line and used to, if you weren't there early enough, it was the biggest one they had in Philly.
AGT, like America's Got Talent.
It was the poetry joint that Javon work for now.
You talking about VIP? Voices of Power?
VIP. When it was at the gallery.
Oh, you talking about when it was at Rack Philly? Okay. Shout out to Lou. Shout out to Lou.
Yeah. When it was there, so I went there. And when I went there, you know, anybody that performed or whatever, I just like, boom, following them on Instagram. And that led me to finding you, DTL, right? That led me find a DTL. And then you happen to be having like an event in 2 weeks of that or something like that. And so I hit you up like, hey, how do I get on the list? And you was just like, buy a ticket. so I got a ticket, and it kind of just went from there, and I didn't really have any expectations. I knew I wanted to perform in Philly because other than that, I had only performed in Virginia, and I wanted to perform in my hometown, and I didn't know what to expect. I will say, I'm not the type of person that gets intimidated. I wasn't intimidated, but I knew the quality of artists that I had seen at VIP, and I expected the same. So I was kind of like, all right, can't go up here bullshitting, right? You gotta go up here and do things. So it's definitely a level of anxiety, and yeah, just put myself out there in a big way. So that's what it was for me. It was that was my whole stepping into the scene type situation. I think you were the second performance I did in Philly.
I'm always like, everybody's like in first or second or like the beginning of the journey, and I noticed that with a lot of artists that we've encountered, and it's crazy because when Mo finally joined the scene, my lineups just started getting like heavier and heavier, and I didn't realize I will say, like, I'm a person that really pays attention to people's art, and I'll deep dive and, you know, research where's your work, let me hear you, this and the third. And it's not so much a personal preference, it's just I'm noticing the type of crowd that you guys are pulling. And, you know, if there's enough substance that people will actually be drawn into it versus like, you know, being bored in the crowd and this and the third. And that's just a matter of, from a marketing standpoint, as a curator, that I had to learn over time. What I hadn't noticed, shout out to Mello. Mello was just like, yo, you're the only person in the Philadelphia area that has consecutively back to back hitter after hitter after hitter. There's like not one lineup that you've had that was not a hit. And I wanted a little bit more of an intimate setting, you know, when it comes to poetry, because like you have people that run out these big club scenes and different types of things. It's hard to control that crowd with the public when it comes to poetry, because then it's like poetry's not really being heard to its fullest capacity. So and you're there to support the artists that are pouring their hearts out. So that was my main goal, because I always say to everyone, you know, poetry being so undervalued. So shout out to the fact that it came full circle, and Mo ended up being on the lineup, a feature after, and then a part of DTL team. So it just like boom, 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 boom.
But divine timing.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and get into, I want us to look at your first performance.
Despite the poet that I think I am, maybe I forget my lines because I'm not thinking straight. I'm too focused on the blank space in between, reading the white noise so I can't hear the sound of my own voice, trying to shout over the void, left by self-doubt telling me to just breathe.
Let's go.
But it's hard to catch my breath in this cloud of smoke left by the exhaust of my heart racing, beating on my chest like the malice of a bass drum on a drum line, trying to keep my thoughts and emotions in step and in sync with my intentions, because my heart knows that my mind tends to grow 2 left feet and it doesn't think right as soon as my name is mentioned. It's like I start tripping over my own words as I go over my own lines. Anxiety smacks me in the face like a rock against the windshield that I never saw coming. And it leaves this chip that I was willing to bet would amount to nothing until my voice begins to crack under the pressure and my dreams begin to shatter as I'm searching my memory to recite my pieces. Like suddenly, I just can't seem to find my piece. You see, that small chip is exploding and turning to broken glass. And so now I'm standing here trying to pick up all these pieces to get myself back together, piece by piece by piece. And this is really puzzling to me. I mean, because I never realized I was such a complex man. I mean, I was taught that a strong black man doesn't stand with anxiety, so it's hard for me to figure out what's going on inside of me. And this is not me trying to put together a mental health piece or find any peace within your sympathy. I'm just asking you to listen to me. This shit is insanity. It's crazy to me. It's like these voices in my head, they just be talking to me and calling me. They be telling me to just write. Especially on them dark nights when I got them nervous shakes from trying to lay off this shit so they don't think that I think I'm Batman. I mean,
Listen.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Listen.
She got the Batman. Yeah, I remember that joint now. Yeah,
That was
I need to
wow.
put on that
I
one.
it's
didn't
weird
know
watching
what.
it though because
Uh-huh.
it's just weird watching it because I remember how I felt when I was doing that poem at that time, and I think about where I am now, and so when I'm watching it, it's like, oh yeah, you gotta fix that. You need to fix that. You need to fix that, right? And but yeah, I remember that now.
That's the professor in
Yeah.
you. Oh my
It
goodness.
is.
He's
It is.
checking
And it
his
was
own
like
work.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at it when I looked at that last night because I was prepping it for today, and I was just like, yo, this was like Mo's introduction. Like it was, and it was like you could tell it was the perfect way to introduce like you being serious about your craft.
Yeah.
And I was just like, a lot of y'all that day that were performing that day was just like, yo, like I was blown out the water. I was just
I
like,
remember that
and
day. Like, everybody was good.
that it was so jam packed in there. There was like over 45 people in that room, and it was like really like we damn near were like shoulder to shoulder. That's
I
how
was
packed
mad
it
I
was
did
in that
not see that
studio.
live. I was so
Yeah.
upset I did not see that live.
Yeah,
No, it was a
it
good
was
show. Like I
it
remember
was
that.
definitely matter of fact, you know, I met a few poets there for the first time that I, you know, invited them to come out. I'm trying to remember like if that was we just had you feature on there that day. I can't remember because we had I think you
No,
were a
I think
feature on that
that
one.
day. I don't think I
No,
don't
that was
remember.
before the feature.
Yeah,
That was
I feel
before
like that was just the first time I performed.
yeah.
That's what I feel like. And I feel
Yeah,
like when I featured, was it there or was it at the other spot?
nah, when you featured it was
Was
at
there?
another spot because we pushed
That's
it.
what I thought.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely pushed it that way. But this it blew me out the water. I kind of knew what to expect a little bit because of me like seeing your work, and then I was just like, when you actually spit, I was like, whew, whew, it gave me chills. I got goosebumps. Like this. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
as a poet, what are some words of encouragement or inspiration that you can give to someone that's just starting in their journey so that they can overcome the fear of start?
You know, that's what I'm gonna say. I don't have anything super like complex to say. It's really simple, right? It's just write and and keep writing, right? And don't get intimidated by other artists, right? Because you have to, when you're writing, the thing that makes you a good artist, it isn't how well you compare to somebody else. It's how much of yourself that you can express to the audience in a real way, in an authentic way. So having said that, if you're just starting to write, the only way that you're going to get to where you want to be as an artist is by keep writing, right?
Yeah.
If you were a basketball player and somebody say, "Hey, I want to start playing basketball," well, they're gonna tell you get your ass on the court and start shooting,
Yeah.
right? It's so it's the
Definitely
same thing. It's the
get
same
on
thing
that
with
brick.
poetry. Yeah, you just gotta get on. You just gotta keep doing it and keep doing it, and don't get caught up into comparing yourself to other people. Like you just
Mhm.
gotta be your own artist. Because here goes the thing, right? And this is one thing I learned quickly. Every artist isn't for everybody. So no matter how good you might think you are, there's some people that's just not gonna rock with you.
Yeah.
But they might listen to you, but they're gonna have other artists they prefer over you. And it just
Oh,
is what it is.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to be your own, you have to be your best self. Um, and that's it. That's what I would tell any artist, right? I see artists get caught up in trying to be, and I used to do this in the beginning too, like get caught up in trying to. I see somebody perform like, oh, I gotta perform as well as they did, and when I would do that, I would forget my lines, I would mess up, I would start doing all other kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's like
So
it's that
You have to
intimidation of
feel
feeling like
your flow.
you have to
yeah.
find, yes, you have to find who, yeah, you got to find your own voice, your own style, your own authenticity. People read that, people know that. Like
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
people could tell when somebody's being authentic. You could have like I've seen artists go and they're really good,
Mm-hmm.
or their performance is good, where they like got a lot of bars and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I ain't really feeling it because it just wasn't authentic, right? Yeah, you
Right.
got a lot of bars.
Mhm.
That shit was tough, but you know.
Or like when
So
people just try to rhyme just because it rhymes and not
yeah, that's what I'm
because
saying.
there's
Like
any
yeah,
there's no,
you
like you
just trying
said,
to have
no
a bar.
authenticity to it. Yeah. It's like you just trying to
Correct.
make it make sense so that way it's like, oh, that's a bar. Oh,
Yeah,
like it's not always about it being a bar or if it hit or if it don't. It's just to me specifically because like sometimes mines might hit and they may not, but it's just like at times I find it where my poetry has to have a deeper meaning than you searching for the bar.
yeah,
Mhm.
Like
yeah,
overall as a whole, as its entire piece all
yeah.
together,
So,
did you receive the message that came through it
Correct.
versus, when you were listening versus just like, oh damn, yo, I like that line.
Yeah.
And I used to be the same way, like get discouraged a little
mhm.
bit because of, being on the other side and just listening to all of y'all and I had to find my own flow and my
Hmm.
own way of bringing it out. Like I think there's been times where like you or Mello have said to me like, "Yo, your cadence is
Hmm.
coming out. It's like it's
Mhm.
growing." And
Hmm.
that in itself is just like me finding different ways of my
Yeah.
own skills and my own way, my own flow of things. So I think
Yeah.
that's definitely important. What are your
Right.
thoughts on the narrative that poetry is trauma bonded and not poetry in itself?
Um, the unfortunate truth is that it can be. Um, but here's why. The reason why I think is because just as human beings, right? Just naturally as human beings, we connect with each other through pain more
Mhm.
than we do love. Uh,
Ooh.
and that's an unfortunate truth, right? Like when somebody
Mhm.
goes through something
Right.
collectively as people,
Mhm.
everybody that has gone through that thing, they automatically connect and gravitate to that. And so and so where a lot of times when when somebody has a poem and it's trauma based, the poem doesn't have to be a technically good poem. Like it when I say technically good, it doesn't have to have like a lot of technical stuff in it, like all that kind
Right.
of stuff, right? But just because the people could connect with it emotionally, um, it it just it spreads, right? That feeling
Right.
spreads and everybody connects to it. And
Mhm.
so now you have that, and that's just a natural human thing. People just connect through when they go through something, people just connect to connect
Right.
with each other, right? And
Right.
then we take the poet itself.
Mhm.
If you have a lot of poets, when they perform,
Mhm.
they their high comes from the response they get from the audience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So naturally, if you say something that is trauma based
Mhm.
and you get the reaction from the audience, you're gonna keep doing it. Not
Mhm.
even not
Mhm.
some people might do it purposely. Some people don't necessarily do it purposely, but that's what they get the response of. So now that's what their poems are all based around.
The
So
Right.
I
dopamine
think
hit.
because of those two aspects, it just
Mhm.
kind of blows up to this thing where a lot of times in poetry it is trauma based. And I think as artists though, a lot of times we are trying to express our feelings. We are expressing how we felt. And
Mhm.
those trauma type situations usually bring out the deeper emotions in us
Right.
most of the time. And that's why I think though, as an artist, it's important to not be afraid to write about anything and not get
Mhm.
caught up into just the trauma base. Like especially in slam poetry. Like I don't know if you ever did slam poetry before, but if you do
Mhm.
slam poetry, the trauma poems always score, always score the highest. And I
Mhm.
don't like that, but I understand where it comes from.
Right.
So it kind of just it's just kind of one of those human reactions. It kind of just is what it is. But I think as an artist, you have to recognize that in yourself and make sure
Mhm.
that you're not getting caught up in just I'm always going to write about the trauma. I'm always
Right.
going to write about what's hurting me.
Right. You
Like
gotta
what
have
about
some
what?
type of versatility. Like you can't just strictly be trauma based. And I think like
Yeah.
coming like my personal perspective on that is just that I feel that human beings overall, completely overall, we look down on vulnerability. We
Hmm.
look down on, we think a lot of the times people think it's shameful. They think
Hmm.
that, you know, they're not comfortable enough to be able to have that freedom of speech when it comes to expressing whatever they may have been through, whatever their thoughts are. It also plays a part in mental health,
Hmm.
not having a safe space. So when we do have a safe space within ourselves and we open up to
Yeah.
the world, and other people may or may not be able to relate, but that's and it, I'm gonna be honest, it ties all full circle back to why I'm named DTL, Dare to Listen, because
Yeah.
it's, I always looked at people were just so afraid to speak for themselves,
Hmm.
because of being judged, being looked at in a different light,
Hmm.
that they're all trauma, but we build up so much that
Hmm.
we are afraid to express out loud because of the way that humans view each other, that
Yeah.
we feel like other people's perspectives and views matter more than ourselves.
Hmm.
And I think that's why it paints the narrative of it being trauma bonded, because it's easy to talk about the high things in life that you go through. It's easy to talk celebrate the joyful moments and things like that. But when it,
Yeah.
I don't know what just happened. Oh, my headphones started playing music. I don't know if y'all heard
I
that.
did hear music. I ain't know it
A
was
little
Did
music.
bit.
you?
Just a
I
little
was
Yeah.
bit.
like, wait. And I
It
started
was
to
just soft. It was
I
soft.
was just trying to fix my headset and I'm like, what's playing? But no, I just think like people gravitate to it most because they don't have the courage to do what most of us poets already do.
Mhm.
But
Um,
if I could add to that too, I think you
mhm,
bring up some good points, and you just brought up something I was thinking about too. Is that you know this is what I would say to artists, right? It's okay to talk about your trauma. That's a good thing because, like you said, it's an outlet for a lot of people. Like a lot of people, when they get into that poetry space, it's almost a safe space because they know, especially when they hear other
mhm,
people doing poems like that, it becomes a safe space. Like, oh, I could go here and
right,
express myself, and I'm not going to be judged,
right.
right? But if you're doing this, if poetry is something you're doing, like you consider yourself a poet and you're doing this long term, this is what you plan to do.
Mhm,
What about growth and resolution,
correct,
right?
correct.
So
That
I think
has
when
to
you
play a
paint,
part in it.
yeah, when you
Mhm.
paint your whole career, you still talking about the same trauma stuff that you was talking about 5 years ago, and
There's no
you don't
healing.
have any. Yeah, now you become inauthentic to me. Like now you're not authentic to me no more because you're not growing. You're not. The whole purpose of you putting
Mm.
it out there is so
It's
that
a
you could grow.
release. You can
Yeah,
release it.
and have some revolution. I shouldn't be hearing the same trauma-based poem 6 years down the road, and
And you
there's
still
you don't
making the
have any
same
poem
mistake.
with resolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
really, it's a learning, it always should be looked at as a learning situation to
Hmm.
learn yourself.
Yeah.
I released this, and personally for me, and I was asked this before, like, do you feel like when you recite a poem you're giving it power? And no matter how many times that you recite it over and over, and I said no, because once my words hit that paper, that is my form of release. So when I say it out loud, whether to myself or in front of strangers or anybody, it's like it's letting go of that lesson. And now it becomes just poetry. It just becomes a piece that may resonate with somebody else, that may help them through whatever words they can't search for themselves, but I've already let it go. Like, and it doesn't always have to be a traumatic situation. It could be a feeling of happiness in a sense. And it's like, what happiness was gained from that lesson, but it's still being released. And that's where the growth has to set in. But if you're not healing from that being a part of your journey, what are you writing for?
Yeah, I agree. And I think over time, like, over time you have pieces that you don't resonate with anymore. I know I do. I have pieces that at one time I wrote them, and it was my favorite poem. And as I grew as a person, as an individual, it's like, I don't even want to say that poem anymore. Like now,
like when people like the same poem over and over again that you recite, and you're like, I'm tired of that one. Like, give me something else. I got more than that.
Now, from a professional standpoint, going into audience, and you please the crowd sometimes, depending on if you're doing a feature or whatever the case may be. But there's definitely poems that just gotta let go of because you just passed it. So
I started writing poetry in the 3rd grade. I don't resonate with the same. I am not the same divine.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not taking it all the way back there. Like,
I look at some poems that I even wrote like just 2 or 3 years ago. I'm like, I can't say that anymore. I'm not even on that level no more.
it's
like
cute.
not level poetry wise, but it's just not me anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Look, we get wiser, not older.
Listen, and people don't understand that. Like, you have to be willing to grow along your journey, no matter what your creative, career path is, or whatever it is your passion is, or whatever you're trying to achieve. You have to be willing to enhance your growth overall. Mo, we got a game for you, and I hope you're ready. And I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but what did we call this game, Devon? I forgot.
This wasn't
pick up the pen.
Yeah, pick up the pen.
All right. Divine is going to utilize a word generator. We're going to give you a random word, and you're going to spit.
Oh man, let me tell you something. We could play this game, but when I tell you I'm not good at freestyling, but we could play it. Let's go. I'm not.
If you could give us a couple of slam bars, that'll work.
It don't gotta be a whole like thing. Just like
it is nothing.
Whatever you come up with at the top of the dome, like.
Okay. You listen. You about to get some Dr. Seuss, some cat.
Redfish boots.
I can never I don't know why I can never freestyle. But anyway, let's go. We're gonna have some fun with it though. So let's.
All right.
So
we go. Okay. This is a really relevant word. We're gonna do beat. BEAT. Like a beat.
BEAT.
Okay. Like drop a beat. Drop the beat.
Okay. Drop the beat, but not the heartbeat. I live through this. I want to give through this. So drop the beat, but make it upbeat, so they can relive through this. Shit.
That was fucking great.
That's it, man. You get one bar. Beat. Next word. Shit.
he said next word. He said
next word.
Switch it. That was good. He said he warned us, Dr. Seuss.
Listen. Next time you better send me that. You better send me that word ahead of time.
That defeats the purpose. He tried to cheat. Should have been his next word.
Look, there you go.
What's the next word?
Cheat.
Cheat. Oh my God. You say cheat like cheat on the test?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor.
Yes, Doctor. Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown.
Some people say some people say don't cheat to win. I say if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying to win. You gotta do what you gotta do to get in and make shit move. So you wanna call me a cheater, I say you got something to prove. Cause you ain't gonna catch me. You ain't gonna catch me slipping. Yeah, I might have cheated, but I bet you I'm winning. Go ahead, man.
Bars. Okay. Somebody here freestyle. Okay, I was like, wait. Wait, you got something to prove.
But no, you know, some people I always admire, seriously, I always admire people that like could really like freestyle like heavy bars off the top of their head. Like I always admire that, like how did I gotta think about my shit.
I was guilty of doing that
In the
one
same
time.
way.
I was guilty of doing that one time. I was having a regular phone call with Jovan, and we were talking about how sometimes as a poet, like you might talk to somebody, a regular conversation, and you start rhyming out of nowhere, like just naturally rhyme. You're oh, and I was guilty of doing that sometimes. And then I was just like, I said one line, and then I just kept going. He was like, "Did you write this down?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "Why not? What?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I was just going." Mo,
What's up?
how you feel about your first segment?
No, I think it's cool. I think there was some good questions. That, you know, like I said, I'm not a freestyler, so I don't like coming off the top.
You just
he's okay.
He gave us some talent.
But I like that. I like it because it's fun. It's fun, and sometimes it's good to get outside of your element and do things that you're not normally comfortable doing, right? So I enjoyed it from beginning to end. I liked it.
So with that being said, we're gonna close this segment out. I hope y'all enjoyed everything. We're gonna go ahead and allow people to put in the comments what you think about this segment in DTL Poetic Vibez Podcast. Make sure you tap in all things Dare to Listen at DTLpoetry.com. Share your thoughts, comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think and what are some topics that you would like to hear from the poets themselves. Mo, want to thank you for joining us, even though you're part of the team, part of the squad.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And thank you for just like being a great first timer for our first episode.
I love getting to know you more in depth.
Yes.
And I hope that people, take a few things from this segment, just learning and tapping in, and some things that may or may not been informative for them in terms of the poetry community. But we're gonna go ahead and end it out, and we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.